Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Straight Up with MS and all its crazy little circles. You're listening to MS&Me Radio, which is supported by the MS Global Support Network. I'm your host, Patty Long, and you can find me at MSing It for Life on Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. Last week, I told y'all a story from when I was little. Did you get a chance to think a little bit about what you're really here for? Because I hope so. I think this is important to know just what we are here for and what is most important to each of us at this very moment in time. And I gave you my take, and I'd certainly like to hear yours. I always love hearing from others. So if you haven't already, take a minute, please, today and ask yourself, what am I here for? I also asked y'all to love your whole self, which includes your MS. And I hope everyone is at least given this one a try. It's hard to be happy. It truly is hard to be happy when you're unhappy with who you are. And so please try to make peace with yourself. None of us did anything wrong. None of us wanted this. These are just the cards we were dealt. And everyone has something to deal with. And for me, and probably for you if you're listening, it's MS. So make peace with it and love all of you. Don't hate yourself because you have MS. It's just unproductive and very sad and discouraging. So let's try and think positively and love ourselves each and every time. I'm sorry, my Twitter went off, and I don't know if y'all heard that, but since it did, I want to give a shout out to Kelly Alderton. I don't think I completely butchered her last name, but hey Kelly, I've just met you, and I think that's great because, as I said, I love meeting new people and hearing everything y'all have to say, and I just really enjoy people. So this week, though, moving on, I wanted to talk about the circle of P. This is not like, oh my gosh, I gotta go pee, hurry, I need that bathroom, I gotta go pee. This is with 3 E's at the end, and it stands for poor sleep, exhaustion, exercise, and energy. Now, if you ever did anything in school with physics, you probably learned that it takes energy to make energy. And this is sort of the basis of fixing the problem. And when I was first diagnosed, gosh, I was falling asleep constantly. And I couldn't stay awake. I couldn't walk. I couldn't hold a drink. I had all these issues going on. And I call them issues because issues can be solved. If I call them symptoms, that seems unsolvable. But I'm a problem solver. So I want to call them issues. And, I've always been a problem solver. And one of the things that was really funny about that was that back in the early 80s, when I was just starting out in business, I would take a job and I would see that, this is taking way too long to do it and there's a better way. And so I would go to my manager and I would tell him my ideas and he'd say, huh, I'd never thought about that. So he would he would let me, my manager would let me adjust things in the workplace and make these changes. And when I did, the workflow was better and it took less people. And as it was back then, the last one hired was the first one fired. So I'd lose my job every time. And I lost many jobs like this. I mean, it wasn't just one job that I lost. But in the 80s, it was easy for me to find another job. I had no problem finding another job and usually had one within a day. So, and each job that I went to was my education. I learned more and more and more from each and every job that I went to. And, it was an amazing way to learn about business and about life and the ups and downs. And I did cause myself a lot of problems because I found these solutions that made it easier to actually do that job and get it done quickly. So instead of it being a 3-person job, it became a 2-person job. Instead of it being a 5-person job, it became a 3-person job. I mean, there was all these crazy things, and but I loved it, and I loved being the problem solver. I loved fixing these kinds of issues. So that's why I call them issues instead of symptoms. And I don't know, it just makes me feel better to call them that, because issues can be solved. And I think that together we can all figure out ways to solve our issues. So the first one of these is the P circle: poor sleep, exercise, actually I've got that a little bit different, but poor sleep, exhaustion, exercise, and energy, I think is the way I said it the first time. But anyway, you put the E's, they're all the same. And when I was first diagnosed, I could not stay awake, period. I fell asleep at the drop of a hat. All I had to do was nothing, and I was asleep. And literally nothing. And this one day, I was desperately trying to do laundry. My husband was really bad at it. When I first met him, it was so funny because he had completely gray clothes. Everything he wore was gray. And it shouldn't have been. But he was washing everything in one load together on hot water and then drying it with high heat. And that gave him gray clothes that were stretched and twisted in all kinds of funny ways. And, as a woman, I don't want my clothes looking like that. Plus, I have delicates, and I don't want my delicates washed like that because they're ruined if you do. So I'm trying desperately to do laundry. And I was sitting in the floor because I didn't have enough strength to do the separating of the clothes by standing up and doing it in the normal fashion that I had done before. These things were not easy. So I'm sitting in the floor separating clothes, and the ones that I wanted to wash together, I was trying to throw them over my head and put them, ring the washing machine, and I would miss half the time and it would come back in my face, or, and other times it would just land on top of the machine or on top of the dryer, but that was okay. I was getting there. And I'm doing this laundry and separating the clothes, just trying to get it started. And the next thing I know, my phone was ringing off the hook. My husband was calling to check on me. And I'm really glad that he did, because otherwise I never would have woke up. I had fallen asleep in that pile of dirty clothes. And, I had these piles all around me, so it was a nice little cushion to fall over into. But, you don't generally fall asleep in dirty clothes. So, but I did. And so the phone had woke me up, and I found myself surrounded by my two very large boxers, and they were protecting me because they knew I wasn't supposed to fall asleep there. They knew there was something wrong. They knew I was sick right from the get-go. So, it was just really crazy time because I did fall asleep constantly, and I could not stay awake. And I thought this was a funny thing to have fallen asleep in the middle of all these dirty clothes, but not everybody did. A lot of people thought that when I told that story to them that I was looking for pity. Well, I'm not. I never have been, and I never will. I'm not that person, and you probably aren't either. But people didn't think it was funny. They thought I was looking for pity. And that was a shame because I really needed somebody to laugh with back then. This was in my very early days with MS, and I was in rough shape, but I knew there were funny things, and I liked to laugh and have fun, and it was a shame that nobody else could see any of the fun or funny in what I was going through. So, but I did. I fell asleep on that. And the doctor that I had at the time, he decided to put me on this drug called Nuvigil. He says that my battery charger basically is broken. So if you think about it as plugging in your phone at night and recharging it, or your computer to recharge it, or whatever else you have, and the cord was broken. So I wasn't getting charged at night. And so I was staying completely exhausted. So he puts me on this medication, and so that gave me just a little itsy bitsy tiny bit of energy to start my day. But it really didn't work very well. And energy is one of these things that to have it, you have to use it. We learned that in physics. To make energy takes energy. You have to use energy to make more energy. And that's how this works. I had to learn to use some energy, but not deplete my energy, because once that energy's gone, there's nothing to build with. So that was a very tricky thing, and I was really horrible at it. And then a few years later, I found a new doctor. I quit taking all the medications that weren't working for me, that were making me worse, and had gotten my referral that I had to demand and get really ugly about, but I got it. And so I went to my new doctor. My new doctor was Dr. Jeffrey English at the MS Center of Atlanta. Now that's a 3-hour drive or so for a normal person, but for me it would take a lot longer. I could not sit still and ride in a car that long. I just couldn't. But it was well worth it. He helped me find the right disease-modifying therapy. He gave me a different energy medicine, which was not Nuvigil, but Provigil, and I take the generic, which is called modafinil. And he put me into physical therapy. And while I was in physical therapy, which it took me 3 tries to find the right place, and I kept calling my doctor and saying, I need a new order. And he's like, what is going on? I said, well, it's the wrong place. I can't go back there. I'm not going to go back there. And he's like, okay. So he'd give me another order. And the third one was the right place. And these people helped me create an awesome program that was designed, they didn't know anything about MS, but they were willing to learn about it. And that was key, that they were willing to learn about it. So they got me started pedaling. And when I pedaled there, it was on a machine, and there was tension built into just turning the pedals, even when you set it to zero tension. And it was really, really hard. And I would sit there, and they'd put the timer on for 10 minutes, and I would sit there, and I would try, and I'd push down on one knee and then push down on the other knee to try and make it go around, because at that point I was this slow, shambling, crawling zombie. And they wanted to start, because everything was messed up about me, but they wanted to start with my legs. So I started with my legs. And they said you needed to start from the bottom up, not from the top down. And so there was a correct order to do things in, and I learned that from these people, and they were just so awesome. So I started pedaling there, and then almost a year into it, I bought myself a set of what I call free pedals. Now, these are floor pedals, and you sit in your own chair. So mine are on the front porch because I like being outside so much. So I turned the little tension screw all the way so that they would just spin, and zero tension. And I'd sit there, and I'd push my knees down, and I'd try, and I'd set my timer for 10 minutes, and I'd try and go for 10 minutes. And then I'd sit there for 20 and rest. And then I'd try again. And then I'd rest. And then I'd try again. And I was really crappy at it. And then in January, I bought this app. It's called Zombies Run. And it's just really an awesome app. It is a story that obviously is set during the zombie apocalypse, but there's no pictures. It's just the story that you're listening to, and you can play your own music. And I played things that were upbeat, happy songs, never anything sad or sappy. And I have to listen to happy songs, upbeat songs, to keep me going and not be sad about my situation of not being able to spin these pedals around with absolutely no tension on them. So that's what I was doing. And when I first got this app, it was, like I said, it was in January. And I'm pulling up my run logs here so that I can find it. Gosh, I've pedaled a lot over the couple of years that I've had this app, so it's taken me a second to get back to the beginning of it. But I was super slow. I mean, beyond being slow, I was so slow. I mean, I couldn't keep up with a snail, I mean, that's how slow I was. And I could barely walk, but I could walk a little. I had to hold on to walls and hold on to counters and make sure that I wasn't being an idiot so that I didn't get hurt. But, it was a hard thing to do, and I found it. I pedaled. This was free pedaling. Even though this is meant to be a running app, I'd strap my phone to my leg. I used a headband tied into a knot that I got at the dollar store, and it held my phone in place. And so I did 590 steps, and that was in 35 minutes and 53 seconds. That's not very fast. Now, the average walking speed is 3 miles per hour, and if with this game, when you got to the 3 miles per hour mark, you got to be chased by zombies. So that was my goal, was to be able to be chased by a zombie. And the app is very encouraging because the story itself is encouraging. You're listening to this awesome production from the UK, and it's got quite a following. So if you want to look it up, look it up. There's no goriness to it, and it's a cool story. So I'm trying my best to pedal to this story, and it would tell you to run faster or something, give you a cue to go faster. And I would try to go a little faster. And the story was put together with these other amazing people who were like trainers. They knew all about intermittent training, and they put that into the app, and they built it into the stories and the design of how the app works. And so here I am pedaling, and trying to get faster. I want to get chased by zombies and not be falling asleep all day. I want to build on my energy without exhausting all of it. And that's how you beat exhaustion, and how you beat this poor sleep cycle that you become so accustomed to. So I had an alarm set for every 30 minutes in the beginning with this blaring, so it would wake me up. So the most I could sleep was 29 minutes, and then I'd be awake, and then I'd try and stay awake. And but when I met Dr. English and he put me in therapy and gave me the right medicines, that really changed for me. I was doing better, and I had that little ounce of energy to get me started, and I had that support of the people at physical therapy to train me to exercise correctly, because just moving wasn't working. I'd been just moving already for over 2 years, almost 3 years, and so just moving wasn't helping me. I needed the physical therapy, and I needed the right physical therapy. And I'm so fortunate to have found that, and I really want to get a video camera so I can share that with y'all and put this program out there. But pedaling was the biggest factor in breaking this P circle, that I call it, of poor sleep, exhaustion, exercise, and energy. And so, I've started over several times, partly because of just who I am. I've not given up, and so when I have a setback, I start again. And I finally was doing really well last year last year, September 22nd, I was doing really well. That was the last day I did really, really well. And I actually managed to walk a 10K race. I actually managed with this program to quit drunk walking, to quit weaving here and there, to quit falling over my own feet in the air and everything else. And I quit having to hang on to walls. Now, it took me a good 2 years to get there, but I got there. And while I've had a setback, then, and then I built myself back up partially, and then I had surgery and all that goes with that, so I had another setback. So I'm kind of starting over again. And so this is, again, a restart for me. And I would love it if you guys could join me in starting over and building yourself up, both mentally and physically, because it takes both. And the only way to defeat this circle is to quit taking naps. So I encourage you to set alarms to wake yourself up. You get into sleep patterns very easily. So if you take a nap at 2 o'clock every day, you're needing a nap at 2 o'clock every day. And you'll feel very sleepy at 2 o'clock every day. So at 2 o'clock, make sure you stay up. And break that nap cycle, because that'll help you defeat this exhaustion. Because poor sleep creates more exhaustion, and you would think that more sleep wouldn't, but it doesn't work that way. It's not about the hours you are asleep, it's about the quality of your sleep. And the quality of my sleep right now is pretty sucky, but it's going to get better because I'm not taking naps, and I'm trying to exercise again, starting with these pedals, and my zombies run game, and trying to make those pedals spin. I am nowhere near where I had managed to get, because I was getting chased by zombies, and I could pedal really, really fast on my little free pedals. But now, the last one I did, I'm not pedaling so fast. I'm pedaling at a rate of 23 minutes per mile. And while that may be fast compared to where I started in the very beginning with this, it's still pretty slow, and I can't get chased. So I'm really working towards getting chased by a zombie. Unfortunately, these circles don't just go away. You have to defeat them by chipping away at them a little bit at a time. And chipping away at this circle, I think, is the first step to regaining control of the exhaustion that we feel. My time seems to be about up, so I want to be sure to once again thank Erica Lyons Richardson, who is the founder of this great network, and Jamie Tripp-Utitis, who I've just met. She's the host of Ugly Like Me, and she is really an awesome person, and I've got to thank her for her support and her friendship. I mean, even though I've just met her, it seems like I've known her forever. And of course, thank you to my listeners, because without y'all, I wouldn't even be here. And I'd love to hear from you. I tell you that all the time. I love hearing from people. And you can find me on Twitter at MSENIT, the number 4, LIFE. It's MS in it for life, because that's what I'm doing, So I want to close by saying keep on trying, and smile big, smile often, laugh as much as possible. And most importantly, love yourself. Don't be ashamed of who you are just because you have MS. Embrace that MS. Own it. Make it yours. And just really, truly don't hate yourself. Love yourself every bit. See you next time.